Welcome everybody to Greater Talks episode. Can you confirm for me? Is it 7?
7?
All right.
Episode 7.
Listen, I'm pretty proud of that, to be honest. We said that we're not going to skip an episode ever. And we've done one every single week and we're going to keep going. So that's pretty exciting. What's wrong?
He wants to come out.
Oh, sorry. No, we're in our offices.
May.
Welcome to this impromptu session. Or I don't want to say impromptu, but I mean, we're really excited about it. We decided here in our Eugene offices in Pretoria, it's one of the startups that we kicked off last year. I had to bring in Jacques Oosthuizen, who's our Chief Operating Officer, and obviously our, no, I won't go there. And Michael Bullock here to my right. He's Chief of Staff in our holding company and our trusted attorney. So welcome, gents.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks.
We
Nice
look forward to hearing your opinions on all of Daniel's questions. But listen, case in point, we had a great week and we thought we're going to do an impromptu session, bring the guys in with no preparation, without any preparation. And the reason is we had an extremely, myself and Daniel had an invite to meet somebody that is really impressive, and I'm not going to mention the name now, but a billionaire in status, and he's really making a difference in South Africa, building businesses, and he really has a heart for the country, and for growing the economy. And in our discussion, just to mention this, we actually started off with a discussion at a restaurant here in Pretoria, and we had a 3-hour dead straight in-depth conversation, and I had 2 glasses of water and Daniel maybe had 4, no food, and we just went back to back, discussing really intense topics. And one of the things that came out at the end was this individual mentioned that he's never heard white people speak like this. That was the way that he concluded. And he mentioned that he wanted to bring us into different conversations because it was evident to him that I mean, I don't want to polish our marbles here, right? But I want to just state the case as to why we sort of went with this impromptu sort of discussion, is because he mentioned the fact that in all of his discussions, he's never heard white people speak like this. About the country, being as passionate about the country, and obviously even more so young white people. So the idea being, we obviously have a heart for the country. We're passionate about the country. We want to build the economy. We want to do all of those things. And so, case in point, Michael, being our Chief of Staff, and obviously I know that you've got 1 million views.
He was
and
in the
opinions.
conversation as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No,
you're actually right. You were in the conversation, so you can just confirm as an attorney that is the case. But here's the question, right? Just to get things going. What are your hopes for the country?
That's a hard one to start off with.
That's a big question. But I think, as we've spoken in previous podcasts, my hope is that we find like a common goal. And move together in unity. And I firmly believe that that's going to be created through having dialogue, and that's the purpose of this podcast, is to talk with one another, Indians, coloreds, blacks, whites, and see where we want the country to go, and move towards that in unity. And one thing that encouraged me about the discussion is that we're a generation apart, but we seemed so aligned already. And as you mentioned, he was impressed that in the discussion, he was impressed that we feel like South Africa is our home, even though we may be told, go back to Europe, go back wherever. We feel like this is home. And that gave me hope that an older man in a different generation realized that we are actually quite aligned. So for me, to then align with someone my age of a different race, it seems easy then. So
exactly.
And that's exactly what we spoke about there in that conversation, is that they started 35 years ago.
Exactly.
And obviously it took time for them to pierce some of the rooms, and obviously they're influential. But we've got the fire, and we started the group obviously together. Our 4 are in line with business, and obviously we're running towards a common goal, and we were actually specifically speaking about a common goal for our country.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there was trial and error from their side already back in the day.
Yeah.
Regarding some stuff they tried with government.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what you're referring to is to actually hear somebody that actually been through that trial and error,
Yes.
but still there was a common goal to actually have that, unity in the country.
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously in this room, and that's something specifically we said to them as well, with that specific conversation, that we are not saying that whatever we do are right.
Correct.
We are not. We didn't make conclusions yet.
Yeah.
We are working towards some common goal in South Africa specifically that we can work towards to get ourselves into a better position as a whole of a nation.
Definitely.
Because we do understand that there's a lot of business going to flow through South Africa to Africa.
Exactly.
Which make that statement that you said, it's quite actually, it's encouraging, especially as young guys that's starting out. Yes, some things work, some doesn't work.
Exactly.
But to hear that from somebody that's actually got some, the right word maybe some authority.
Exactly.
But to see them enlightened and the passion that came out in that conversation, to say, listen, but yes, we need to speak about this in more detail.
Exactly. And I think the big thing for me is that we realize that South Africa has so much potential. I mean, we may know it, but to actually in that moment realize, geez, okay, but we can move forward. Something that he started pioneering 35 years ago. We're trying to dovetail into that and take it even further.
Yeah. Well, because of the influence and maybe our, how can I say, our drive and the motivation because we're young.
Exactly.
Not to say anybody does all, but
Can I tell you what?
we have a super drive in us.
Exactly.
So
Can I tell you what stood out for me? I mean, there's a lot of things that stood out for me, right? But here's the thing that when I actually unpacked the conversation afterwards, I really thought about the fact that the conversation felt so pure.
Yeah.
Like it, and that's why I think we went for 3 hours straight. And we were sparring, and it was going back and forth, and it was really good. And the thing is, nobody really just sat back and said, not that anybody had to give, but it was constantly pushing the conversation to the extent where if you didn't necessarily agree at first, ultimately you agreed at the end, or in whichever direction it went. And the reason being, within the conversation, everybody's hearts were open, right?
Exactly.
And we were talking about difficult things, real difficult things, and obviously big dreams. In previous episodes, we've mentioned the fact that, when you want to 3x or 4x or even the way out figure 10x an economy, right? I mean, that's way out thinking.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of underlying factors that you need to take into account.
Yeah.
And we were discussing these things in depthly, obviously taking into account the challenges that we're facing in the nation, right? But nobody was giving, and everybody was really driving towards a solution. The reason that I'm bringing this up is, and I think that's important for our discussion here, maybe just to touch on, is the idea that everybody in the country should, and I don't want to say stop holding back, because I don't want to generalize and say that people are holding back, but I'll use that in the right context, right? Stop holding back on this conversation.
Yeah.
Let's really, actually, in every setting, in every opportunity that we actually get, irrespective of the differences around the table, take time to discuss these things, because you will find, as we found in this conversation, that the reality is that in essence, we actually want the same thing on a lot of important levels, right? But it takes some guts and willingness to open up the conversation and say, listen, I'm willing to be rejected, I'm willing to take the flak, but I actually want to raise this, and I actually want to hear your opinion and your way of thinking.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and that's the only way we as South Africans going to get to a goal to say, listen, put the differences beside. That's fine.
Yeah.
We agree that there will be a difference, and that's okay.
No.
We've passed that. That's actually legitly okay.
Yeah.
We do understand that we as, for instance, we can be labeled as poor, or whatever they want to call it. But we do understand that we're never going to understand some cultural differences.
Correct.
Likewise. And the same with us. There's some things that we go through as children that they don't want, or let's say if we want to talk about the race thing. But we need to be able to sit in a setting. For instance, when we spoke about Tabu, that was the first conversation, well, apart from some of the other conversations with our good friends that we had. But it was the first conversation publicly that I had with somebody that we can actually say, I do not understand the whole BEE thing.
Yes.
Because it only feels like, because we've got white friends that are not in a position where they can excel because of the system.
Exactly.
Let's make it something that's close.
Yeah.
That's not to a respecter of any race.
Exactly.
Because we are the whole of a South African, and we need to speak towards South Africans. And that's what and that's a reason for us starting this the podcast. But the thing that I also want to get to is, in that conversation, it was super clear about that South Africans don't back themselves
Yes, that's true.
in their ability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
like the lack of confidence.
the lack of confidence. You said it now, and I want to get back to that, because that's something that we are really after, about the talent that we believe going to get out of our townships.
Yeah.
We know about the talents that's sitting in our townships. We know about all the, we spoke about that simple thing, that the thing that we are involved in, or not involved in, that we are exposed to, about the Nigerians that got a weak line, but they've got a laptop they can code, and they can, through that, live their talents. Now, not for one moment I will believe that that's not available in our country.
Yes.
We sit with a lot of young South Africans that are talented, that's sitting in townships, that doubt themselves because of their situation that they were in,
Yeah.
and not backing themselves regarding that situation that they can get out of, because they're exposed to that environment. We drove through, what was it?
Alexandria. Yeah.
It's shocking to see the little children sitting around a fireplace.
Yeah.
And I do understand that's community and people, I don't want to take anything away from that. But in no world, that's okay to expose a child to such limited, and I do understand there's a couple of years, or let's say 100, maybe, I'm not 100% sure how many years, but there's a couple of years that led up to that.
Yeah.
But that happened. What are we going to do the next 40 years?
Precisely. Exactly. Yeah.
What are we going to do the next 40 years? Yes, we're planning. We've got a lot of plans, and we're really trying. I said to Stefan, this is what I have. I can only give
Listen, I mean, I don't want to even listen. We must be careful, but I do want to mention, in the sense that, can I tell you, and hopefully it just inspires somebody, because we don't talk about this, but we've started in the last 6 months the better part of 6 businesses. And we're driving, right? And I think maybe that's
talent.
Looking for talent, because here's the thing. Listen, we would be lying if we were saying that we do not want to make money.
Yeah.
If you're in business and you don't want to make money, then you're obviously a non-profit. Okay, then you're not in business.
Yeah.
Okay, then you're in the distribution game.
Definitely.
So I mean, we must put that there, because all of us agree on that, and there's no debate about that. But in equilibrium to that, we want to employ people.
Yes.
We really want to employ people.
100%.
And I think, referring to you actually mentioning us driving through Alexandra, listen, it's tough. It's actually tough. We drove through there, and I mean, Tabu mentioned it in our discussion at the end when he referenced the fact that then it was only the 2 of us, or 2, white privileged males, and all of those things, and sort of taking his hat off, saying, well done that you guys are at least attempting to drive this, and the conversation.
And we pause that, because that's a side. If we white privilege,
No, but I mean,
whatever the case might be, flip it. We as South Africans need to drive together.
But this is the point.
Yeah.
Taking that into account and saying, listen, so we drove through there looking at the situation and saying, listen, people need to get exposed to this. People need to start seeing this. People need to because what happens is something shifts in your heart, right?
Yeah.
Something shifts in your heart.
Definitely.
You look at that situation, you think to yourself, listen, it's incumbent on all of us to build the nation. It's incumbent on all of us to actually start doing something to raise this and to fix this, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, all of us, when we drove through there, had exactly the same response. And I'd go as far as to say that every single South African, I almost want to say every single human being, right? But I mean, obviously, let's not go there. But every South African, I believe at least, would agree with that. So with that being said, maybe a slight pivot, because, and I'll tell you why. And I mean, Daniel, you must maybe stop us if you don't, if we run the risk of let me not say the risk of anything. But I think it's important for us to maybe talk towards the male side of things, right? Without any negative perspectives.
Yeah.
But I mean, we are 4 white males. You know, and maybe let's touch for a moment on the whole masculinity thing and just because because that's, I mean, we're for white males, right? So let's sort of talk to that and say, listen, I mean, we've got to believe.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a responsibility. But we can speak to males, right, from that direction, you know, and say, listen, guys, we really need to step up because we know how we feel, right? We can talk about that with experience and sort of talk about it and say, listen, I'm convinced that all of you feel like that,
Yeah.
So,
right? So how do we step up our game? That's the question that I'm working,
so I think
working
that
towards.
I'm going to give Jock now because I want Jock to maybe speak a little bit about this. But I had a conversation. So let's say every month I check in with my pastor. I do believe in, I think all of us do. You know, that's something that we've got mentors, but we need to stay close to our pastor, which is important. But I had a conversation with him, and I said to him, I don't think that the young men that want to build businesses realize the amount of level that they need to step up to actually make it in this business world today.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of guys that want to start businesses. I hear a lot of talk. We, as four businessmen that are driving businesses together, saw that firsthand, how we see people talk about business, talk about ideas, but the actual work doesn't get done.
Yes. Yeah.
And the level of excellence that need to, or that are required for you to actually build a super business in the country, in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think young entrepreneurs, and you mentioned a stat, so I don't want to go to that stat exactly, but just quickly say the stat regarding, that Patrick David mentioned regarding you don't need to put the exact figures, I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's a super stat. The thing
Listen,
is,
you are putting me on the spot, but I'll give you the interlude, right, or the prelude, right?
we won't keep you towards the actual numbers, but the common line is because we're running, the job will tell us this, he's running Eugene, that's a health company. So which means...
Well, it's relevant in that sphere, right? So maybe let me just give the stat, or not,
Okay.
but I mean my understanding of the stat. But the thing is, we discussed this, right? And it's actually a big deal. So 100% disclaimer, the numbers are going to be incorrect because I actually can't recall the numbers 100%, but the principle holds true.
Yeah.
And Patrick B. David mentioned the fact that I think he said that the starting date was 1980. It might be before that. And he said since 1980 until now, testosterone levels on average has gone down 1% per year, right? And there's been a lot of discussion regarding that. I mean, Jordan Peterson has spoken about this. There's a lot of people that have touched on this, right? Because, I mean, it is relevant. I mean, surely that doesn't make sense. The thing that really got me when I listened to the video was he mentioned PSI strength, right? Grip, pressure. And he said, and again, the numbers I think are going to be incorrect, but the principle holds true, that male PSI went down from 116 to approximately like 98 or 97 or something of the sort. And female PSI went up from something like 75 or 70 something or 68, I'm not sure, to like a 90 odd number, which there's nothing wrong with that. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
But surely I think everybody will agree.
The brothers, yeah.
The brothers need to step it up, and not that it's like it's competitive, but I mean we shouldn't be coming down on that level. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a fact, man. We can saw it. We see it in Eugene. And when we do bloods, not to keep any detail out, but we see every single male testosterone level.
Yeah, the test levels are,
Test levels are
it's shocking.
And the thing is, I always said, so when I walked into the boardroom there, this maybe it's a little bit naive for me to say that, but I literally could have called, if I'm going to dominate the boardroom, in like 10 seconds. And not to say that that's a little bit cocky, I don't want to go there, but the thing is, it's really true.
Correct.
I was about 80% of that time I was right, because you can see the demeanor of the room you walk into. And my father always spoke about these business deals and stuff they did back in the day, and you know when guys we as youngsters are not used to. Flip, if you just, and we don't want to promote, violence at all.
Yes.
But flip it. Back in the day, if the Oaks were not agreeing about anything, it was a little bit of a ulevapper, or I don't know what you call it, but it was a flat hand. And no, they sorted it out in a quick way.
Man to man.
I promise you. And
Yes.
Well, and what makes it worse is at least my remembrance of those discussions were there was no recourse in the sense that you got your club and you took it.
Correct.
now
It was like-
now it's court cases and they
It was
sue them
like-
for
Precisely.
Man,
I actually
what's the
deserve
term?
that, you know.
What's the
GBH.
yeah? Whatever.
Yeah, grievous bodily harm. Yeah, no.
Oh,
it's-
listen, it's a big deal. But I mean, listen, case in point, right? Because just from a male perspective or the whole masculinity perspective, I mean, listen, that's a worrying stat, right?
Yeah.
And it's concerning because, I mean, if you're going to have children and you're going to have a boy,
Yeah.
I think everybody would agree that you don't want your son, I don't want to generalize, but I'll say in most cases one would expect that you don't want your child to necessarily have a low testosterone level, right? I mean, you sort of want that, that bit of gusto in him.
Correct.
So question being maybe to you, Jacques, because, I mean, I don't know how, I don't want to put you on the spot. But I mean, Jacques, if it's not obvious, Jacques does train.
He doesn't have a low testosterone.
Yeah,
level.
he has lots of
Anybody
testosterone.
There's no doubt there. No, the brother is built right. But here's the thing, right? If you could maybe just talk to that, right? In the sense that what you've experienced in the gym, and especially guys coming in, even myself. I mean, I've trained with you. Starting off and the build up from there, and people just giving up in general. Guys, obviously now specifically, and what the drive is to actually really get your test levels up. And here's the thing, right? The change that you actually see in guys when they start really pushing in the gym.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, everybody,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't want to go too far here, but you sort of see that animal coming out, right? In
100%.
comma,
Yeah. It's like, in a sense, like, as I'm just going to speak like as a man, like
100%.
you want that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
It's
your
almost
body,
like it's something
your body needs
drafting.
it.
It's a natural inclination towards
yes. So when you can't put yourself in that position, you're not actually at a place where you can reach for it.
Yeah.
And it's a sense of maybe like having that first taste of what you can do, how your body reacts, how the as a man, I mean, it's muscle, it's testosterone, especially in the gym, the music's pumping, you lift weights you never thought you would.
Yeah. It's almost that thing of you don't know what healthy is until you're healthy.
Until you're 100%. So it's, I think it's Jordan Peterson, he has this quote where he says, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Sure.
Oh, good.
So it's a sense of you
We're going to
being...
put that in a short. Thank you, Tinder. We're going to put that in a short. You're on the
That's
spot.
super, man.
It's about being the warrior,
Yeah.
That's
but you
powerful.
can control it.
Correct.
You
Yeah,
understand?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you've, especially being in the gym, let's say you've trained for a long while, there's discipline.
Yeah.
So we never got to go to the army or anything.
You need
so-
to have that. And that's
Yes.
why we have a commitment of being, we meet each other if it's lekker or if it's not lekker.
Yes.
We meet each other 5 o'clock in the gym.
Yeah.
And luckily, Jogs give us the program.
Well, listen,
when
luckily
we
or
get
not
that
luckily,
program,
I mean, it's debatable.
Yeah.
It's not luckily. Sometimes it's super hard. But the thing is, sometimes when he sends the program at night, we don't want to get to the gym the next morning. But the thing is,
Yeah.
we committed. That's the time we get each other. So that's the
Yeah.
commitment you were talking about.
Yeah.
Is that commitment to, obviously we train for an hour. You believe not to really train longer than an hour. And well, all of us do. That I think we asked for that. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's that commitment in the
Yeah.
gym. And obviously I can see that because I picked up like, and I'm not big at all, but I picked up like freaking like, I think 6 kgs after increase. And I can really, I was fit, but on a,
Well, you were a
cycling.
pro athlete. I mean,
Well,
so let's just
but I was cycling a lot after that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my upper body was super like thin.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Gabriel
Lyon,
yeah, I saw something about her saying that longevity is in the muscles, and she believes in that. And obviously, I don't just go towards one thing. I always like, but I said to Jock, listen, let's get my body into shape a little bit, and let's just train the whole thing. And obviously, me and
100%.
Stefan started to train together. But I can say from my side, I'm almost like a living testimony of that because I've been through everything. I've been through the whole, pro athlete career. Dipping, being like, did nothing for 3 years because I was so gutful about
And then Ironman.
training. And then Stefan, we decided, you two to train together, and then obviously I started to train. But the thing is, I feel like, I would say like 80% better now, and my
100%,
loss,
yeah.
the energy I have.
Yes.
It's just that.
And Mike has now also joined, just
And
for the
Mike
record.
joined. So
Yeah.
mine will feel better.
You'll feel better in a week.
In a few months, I'll start looking like
But,
Shark.
but if I can, but listen, something that you mentioned, if I can just probe you on it, right? Because you touched on discipline,
Yeah,
and I
that's
mean
super.
talking about the whole masculinity thing, and testosterone and all of those things. I mean, discipline is a huge factor here. right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, obviously, you've now been training people for quite some time, and trained with people, right? And you know the game. So question being, and I mean specifically talking to the guys here, right? Is that something that the guys struggle with in general? Do you see that? Do you not see that? Have you seen it? Like, what's the
100%. I think it's the thing of overestimating how hungry you are for it. Because when you're in that thing, if you've never started a business, you don't know how hard it's going to be. If you've never trained, you don't know how hard it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So suddenly you've been thrown into this, and gym is hard work. It's let's call it manual labor. Willingly,
Yes.
you know, stepping into the gym, lifting weights, progressing each week. You can't stay at 2 kgs
No.
lifting.
So-
you know,
Exactly.
and we've never had that place of to force ourselves to be able to learn discipline. It's something that just it doesn't just come to you. But like
You
you
need to
said,
force it.
you need to force it, and if it's luck or not, you're there.
So I heard something this morning that, no, I interrupted both. So I heard something this morning. One man will see the gym as a prison.
Sure.
The other man will see the gym as an opportunity.
Yeah. It's true.
And that's literally, I saw the gym after I was an athlete. It was a prison. It was literally a prison. I needed to take 2 years off to get out of that mindset. Stefan, you know, we were together on holidays, and I would tell you, I don't want to see the gym. I don't want to gym. Because I did it 3 times a day for
Yes.
freaking 17 years
Exactly.
in my life. I
Yeah.
was gutful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I got back, I missed it. So I needed to have that mindset change and discipline to change it from a prison towards it's opportunities. It's part of my discipline. It's part of my routine. It's
Yeah.
important during the day. If I don't gym, I don't have the energy to do and build all these businesses
Correct.
that we are
Exactly.
that we are building.
Yeah.
So it was part of the solution for me.
Yeah.
And obviously Stefan now, if I talk to her. But you get my point.
Yeah.
It's super to think of it that one man will think of it, and it's in life, it's the same.
But it's perspective. right?
Exactly. That's
Perspective.
what I want to say.
It's the same with opportunity, it's the same with marriage, it's the same with your household.
Correct.
It's the same with things. It's all about the perspective and how willing you are to drive through it with discipline.
And the thing is, it talks to the willingness to actually go through that painful process, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that we sort of really doing right here, I mean, you know, from my perspective, one of the things that I've always done in all spheres is I love putting people next to me that are better than me at that thing, right? So, I mean, when I started training with Jacques, I mean, just like it, you know, I mean, Jacques is obviously a unit of note and not to, you know, but I mean, it's just the reality.
Well, Mike did it now. So-
Now I need to learn how to actually really train and train proper.
Yeah.
But the point is the willingness to actually go and say, listen, I'm going to look like a complete idiot here
Yeah.
for 6 months, but teach me, Obi-Wan.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Then obviously things, time passed and things shifted. So I started, me and Daniel started training in terms of the way that we actually put our regime. That sounds bad.
Training regime.
Our training regime together, right? Obviously, Jacques does the programs, but I mean, you were a pro athlete, so obviously you've got a level of endurance that has been substantiated over time, etc., etc. Same principle applies. Here, I'm now training next to you, and why I'm mentioning this is because the question to you is, why do guys actually give up, right? And not just give up. I actually want to say quit,
Yeah.
because from my experience, I just really believe that guys in general want to really actually step up. Like guys want to be better. They
Yeah.
want to push.
And that's
They
the
want to look better. They want to be stronger. It's part and parcel of our makeup,
It's
right?
the habit, Stefan. If I can jump in there,
Sure.
people fall into the flippin' habits.
Yeah.
They create bad habits. They're in that habit. They cannot get out.
Correct.
It's the most difficult thing for somebody to get out is their habits.
Yeah.
Because you need to break a habit. You cannot just get out of a habit. And you can maybe give a total different view on this, but that's what I felt. And not only from me, that 3 years for me, not training, the habit that I was not training. I was working my ass off. You know, we didn't speak in that 3 years. I was working on it. But my body, guys, I was looking bad. Got changed.
By your standards.
But the thing is, it was the hardest thing was that first 2 weeks for me getting back into the gym. Just to break that.
Correct.
That was the hard part. And
Sure.
I think people struggle with that.
Yeah. And it's like a habitual mindset that needs to be broken, right? And for me, to take it to this point, I feel like this is where society is heading is like, it's okay, you do you live your truth. And it's not like we're not geared to challenge ourselves anymore. And I think that's why a lot of people give up if the going gets tough. The tough need to get going.
Yes.
But these days it's like, okay, you just live your
You can be
life.
who you are,
You
just-
be the
just
best
chill.
you. Do
Yes.
you know what I mean? And that speaks to the masculinity. As men, we need to challenge ourselves. We need to progress and advance. We need to advance our families. We need to provide. Not that women can't provide, but there's that innate desire for a man to provide for his family. But it goes in the business sense as well.
Yep.
If you're not going to challenge yourself, you're not going to progress. If you're not going to beat lazy mindsets, you're just going to stagnate.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with like-minded men.
Exactly.
Because you need to keep each other accountable.
100%.
Jock keeps us accountable. In the sense that
Well, then he
program
gives us
to
a well-deserved.
That's it.
You know.
So when he gives us the program, he wants to know, listen guys, how was this? If we didn't do it, then it's on us. So listen.
Hold on, though.
Yeah.
I want to hear your view on all of this because people obviously, men quit.
Yeah.
They start the gym. How many people have gym? You get what I'm saying? And the reason why we're really hammering this is we've got a view and completely teachable again. That's the whole point of this conversation. I don't think we're trying to share our ultimate wisdom here, but we want to drive conversations on these things or on these matters, right? But our view is that if you can't be disciplined on your body, right, which you've only got one of, right, surely that there's a real chance that's gonna sort of what's the right
Well,
word? Permeate
it filters
into the rest,
down,
filters down into the rest of your life, right,
Correct.
which is a huge thing when it comes to business, building business, growing
Exactly.
the economy, and all of these types of things. So
Yeah.
it's like a real thing because fundamentally. I don't want to say something dies in you if you just let this go, but it's important to attend to this because again, the opposite is also true. If you drive this with the same level of intensity and commitment, it will obviously also filter through to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So case in point, why do guys actually quit on this?
The thing, I do think it's more than one, because I do agree with Dan and Mike. To me, it boils down to what would the goal be. If your goal in business is to purely make money and you have 5 years of struggling, will you keep on with the business? Yes or no? If your goal in the gym is to purely look good, but the training or the workout is too hard, will you keep on or will you not? So that's why I said earlier, it's people overestimate how hungry they are for the things they want. And that's something no one can sit you down and talk to you. You need to be able to be at a place and sit and say, listen, yes, I want to build a business, but what I'm giving now, it's given reward. You sit down, you put in, and you get the finances back. Are you happy with that? Yes or no? If it's no, then put in more.
Put in more.
Absolutely. If you can't,
You're not
if you
gonna
don't
be
look,
rewarded more for less, unless you are
100%.
super smart, but then
Yeah.
experience is important.
Absolutely.
Correct.
So the same to the gym. I've coached countless men, and it's 2-3 months, and then when that plateau hits,
Yeah.
gone. And there's no amount of me saying, listen, just push
Pushing through, yeah.
I've done this for 13 years, John. You'll get there.
Yes.
But 3 months, you've been, let's just, and I'm not bad-mouthing anyone, if you've been overweight for 20 years, you think it'll take you 3 months to get rid of that?
No.
Absolutely no. So have you been truthful with yourself is the
That's
question.
a big deal.
And that's, especially towards how you look, and I like what you've said in the sense of, this is your body, this is how you represent yourself, this is who you put into the world. If you're not happy with that, what are you willing to do then?
Yeah, and 100%. And,
No.
and for me, it's a thing of you need to be willing to say, listen, okay, if you don't have a goal, then put like small hurdle in front of yourself.
Absolutely. Small
you
ones,
cannot
reachable ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
people want to have that life,
Yeah.
but there's no clear vision of where they want
Correct. Yeah.
to go. And
100%.
yes, I love vision. So I put
And the
everything
easiest
that,
and the easiest thing for that matter is, yes, and that's generalizing again, but start with a vision for your physique.
that's
Correct,
it. But
yeah.
that's
Because
what
I mean
wanted
that's
to
so
get to.
close to home, right?
Yeah.
Start with a
at
vision
least
for
if
your
you wanna
physique
say, give a
and on to
picture.
the next one.
When you go to the hairdresser, you tell them most probably this is how I want it.
Yeah. Look at the
The
picture.
hairdresser will
Exactly.
know exactly. Listen, okay, I need to cut this out here. Your head shape's not the same, so let's maybe shave a bit and cut a little bit here. But at least she knows exactly what you want.
Hmm.
If you just tell them cut my hair short, and she took off all your hair. Okay, now what now?
Yeah.
All the hair is
Yeah.
gone. So
Exactly.
have a clear vision of where you want to get to, and then work towards that. But be realistic
Yeah.
and be diligent. So.
That's
Yeah,
the thing.
I must say, again, it boils down to vision.
Correct. And one thing we've been taught is that you have to have a certain mindset. Like
Yeah.
we always told, like a mind that's made up is hard to change.
Yeah.
So you need to go no matter what the circumstances are. And it's the same in the gym. You hit that plateau after 3 months, but you need to decide, okay, these are the circumstances now, but I've made up my mind.
Yeah.
I'm not a fence sitter. I'm going to keep on going. And that touches all aspects of life. I mean, again, what I said earlier, when the tough gets going, when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Yes.
Do you know
That's
what I
it.
mean? So
Maybe that's when the going gets.
when the tough gets going, the going. I mean, I messed it up twice. When the going
Let's
gets
go
tough,
slow,
the tough
fast, and
gets
fast, and
going.
slow, right?
There's another principle that you have to learn in life.
Good
Okay, so
point.
I think for this episode, let's call it. For me, it's about diligence.
Yeah.
And it's about vision.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And when the games get tough, the tough gets going.
Exactly. There
So
we
maybe
go.
we
First
can
time.
add that. Yeah. So, no, I needed to construct that well. So maybe for the viewers, please comment on this.
Exactly.
We want you guys to comment.
Yeah.
We don't want to just put our views out there and that's like stamped. That's not stamped. We are
Correct.
open to
Critique, right?
critique,
100%.
positive, negative. That's why we did it. We've got asking,
Yeah.
so we can get all the negative comments or positive.
Yeah.
Luckily, we've got a lot of positive, comments about cars.
And a lawyer.
And a lawyer, so let's not go.
Yeah, look, and if I have one comment also, I was in you wanting people to engage with us. If there's like certain topics you guys want us to talk about, like
Yes.
drop a comment about which topic you'd want us to
Yeah.
talk about, and we can unpack it further.
Sure.
Please. Great.
Alrighty, gentlemen, let's all step it up.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you, episode 7.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.